Transition Awareness Breathing. Feeling grounded for both children and parents is essential for healthy living and learning. Join Eartha Powell on this series for tips and tools for creating a harmonious environment for learning. Transition Awareness Breathing will help you and your child find an individualized path to tackle change, promote lifelong learning, and discover new approaches to calmness.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast. This is Eartha. Wow. Since the last time I have shared with you, I came across some information that I can't wait to share with you. And it is dealing with the topics that we have been covering about coming up with an action plan to improve our happiness score. And I promised you that we would visit this topic. I didn't expect to visit it so soon, but I just could not put this off. That's going to be one part of our time together. The next part of our time will be a practice, a mindfulness practice. So, before I get started, thank you, Web Talk Radio, for allowing me to have a platform to bring Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast to my listeners. And to my producers, Mary Lou and Sam, thank you for making Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast available to my listeners wherever they go. All right, everyone. Okay, let's roll up our sleeves. Now, I have to warn you, let me put a little warning right here, that this information that I'm going to cover will probably take a couple of sessions because it is so much. What we've covered in the past has been a lot. And I really believe that when we're talking about change, it's really helpful to take one step at a time and maybe even a half a step, because when we're making a big change, and particularly when we're talking about a change in our lives, it is like trying to make a U-turn with a big semi-truck trailer. It is just not going to work really easily. And the truck drivers who are very skilled about moving those big rigs, they have had a lot of practice. So what I would like to share with you is a little bit detailed information. And I say a little bit is because we're going to try to make this as simple as possible. I came across this article, and I promise, well, even when I started doing this podcast, that the information that I provide you is resourced and researched based, so that you can feel comfortable that the information I am putting out is valid, is from a professional source, and I also practice mindfulness, and everything that I have talked to you about, I put into practice myself. So this article, this resource is called the Mindfulness Action Plan. And the Mindfulness Action Plan is abbreviated MAP. And it is used to apply changes, to help bring about changes in acceptance and commitment. But we're going to use it, the structure of it. Yes, we're going to use it, but we're going to concentrate on acceptance and compassion. And I think with this tool that is in this article, and the article is by Danielle J. Morgan and Shiri Ming. And I'd like to thank those two authors for putting this out. I found it very interesting that when they wrote this article, it was published online July 28th, 2020. It's been a couple of years. Do you remember what was going on? We were under lockdown. The world was under a very big crisis in response to COVID. And as devastating as COVID was, is, and however devastating it may prove to be in the future, we don't know, but we have learned a lot. And I think one of the big pictures that I would like to share is, in the event of such a crisis, we have had to learn how to move forward in the face of crisis, and we have learned so many new ways of doing a lot of different things. And through that period of time in July of 2020, these two authors came up with this MAP action plan, this mindfulness action plan, as a response to help people move forward through the crisis. So I would like to share it with you. And then, I'm going to share a little bit of it with you, and then we'll go a little bit more next time. And then towards the end of our time together, I would like to share a mindfulness practice. The goal of acceptance commitment therapy, it is abbreviated ACT, which was brought out in this article, is to facilitate psychological flexibility. And what that means is the ability to keep going and pursuing the value in life in despite of the pressures and pain that is present. And so I think, and as the authors stress throughout the paper, this can be very useful to many, many people. So using this tool as a mindfulness tool, and as we are coming up and kind of tightening up our draft of our mindfulness action plan, let's begin with the awareness of ourselves and the acceptance of ourselves. So in our last session, we talked about the qualities of life, those indicators. This session, we're going to funnel down a little bit more detail and begin by looking at an awareness, being aware of ourselves. And that is part of this mindfulness action plan that I am sharing with you. How do we usually express or describe ourselves? That's just a question. Oftentimes, when we're asked that question, we describe our profession, or we describe our role in our family, or we describe our enjoyment of entertainment. We have some of those descriptors in the way we're describing ourselves. Or maybe we describe ourselves based on our values, our family values, or our cultural values. If I can use a couple of examples, and I'll use myself, during the pandemic period of time, I was teaching transition awareness breathing virtually to my students. And so, I asked myself, if I'm using this question, how to describe myself. I'm a nurse, and I was teaching transition awareness breathing to my students during the pandemic. Well, is that who I really am? We had a severe snowstorm in our area a few years ago, And like a lot of people, I had to abandon my car, and my children and I, we had to walk home. And although it was new for them to walk in the snow, it wasn't new for me because I grew up in the northern part of the United States. And so I was pulling from my experience and sharing, well, I am a northerner and I know how to get us to our home safely. But is that who I am really? Some may describe themselves as I'm a hard worker or I am very patriotic. Is that really answering the question of, to the core of our being, are we really describing who we are? Or what we really are doing is describing our experiences. And if we're describing our experiences, are we really truly describing who we are, or are we just an existence of our experiences? In this Mindful Action Plan by Danielle Morgan and Sherry Ming, they offer a phrase that will help us begin to identify and move towards a new perspective of ourselves. And this is the phrase, I am here now, accepting the way I feel and noticing my thoughts while doing what I care about. That phrase is structured in a worksheet, and I will put the resource, the link, so that you can pull it up and see as well. And it is a checklist as well as also attached. And this mindfulness action plan helps us to really identify the first part of our question that I asked before. How would you describe yourself, or how would I describe myself? And if we are using descriptors, if we're using our verbal behaviors to describe our experiences, then I invite you to do the first part of this exercise and think about when, during a time in your life, you were not that descriptor. Think about a time, as for my example, of when I was not a nurse. Think about a time of when I was not a parent. And during that time, what qualities existed then that you notice are still present with you now? As you're thinking about that, recognize your feelings and your thoughts. Maybe allow your feelings and your thoughts to visit to a time of when you were not your profession, or when you were not the parent, or the busy person. Visit your thoughts and your feelings. Allow yourself the flexibility just to be aware, and show compassion to yourself by allowing yourself to go at that point, and then recognize your feelings and your thoughts right now. I invite you to let go of any negative thoughts or any problematic thoughts that you may be thinking about yourself right now when you're describing yourself. Just let it pass. And so that is the first part of the Mindful Action Plan. And its category is called I Am. And what it is prompting us to do is to recognize the I am without our descriptors of our profession or our descriptors of, we're a hard worker. Just coming into the present of the core person of who we are. And with that, I think this is a good time to lead us into a gift of mindful practice. And then next time, we will continue on the mindfulness action plan to the next part, which is here and now. And I will incorporate some of the here and now part of the mindfulness action plan in our mindfulness practice. I invite you to take this opportunity to get into a comfortable position that is comfortable for you. It can be sitting, standing, walking. And as you are getting into your comfortable position, recognize any pressures or stiffness that may be going on. And if you can adjust yourself to relieve that pressure, or if you could realize that maybe the pressure is something that you've kind of learned how to live with, I'd like for you to take a breath in your nose and out your mouth and allow yourself to let that pressure to melt for right now, to let it grow small and even smaller. Take a nice easy breath in your nose and out your mouth. If you would like to place your hand over your heart, and as you are taking that nice, easy, and gentle breath, to notice the movement of the chest, of your shoulders, and just let any tightness, any pressure, just let it melt. This is a time to get back to you. This is the time just to focus on the I of you, of the I am. Life has been full of challenges, maybe interruptions, maybe a lot of effort has been put into getting to right where you are. And I invite you to recognize who the real you, who that core you, who is there. That person that was there a long time ago. It has worked. It has grown. It has blossomed. And if all the titles went away, if there were a time where you had to just sit or walk and visit you, I invite you to show compassion, just as you would show compassion to a dear friend or a relative. Now I invite you to reach out to you and to know that it's okay to visit the you at this time, right now. Just take a breath in your nose and out your mouth. And sometimes in our journey, we have grown stronger in different qualities to move us to a point where we can be stronger. That part, that pure part of you, say hello to it. Notice what is going on with your feelings and your thoughts right now. And try not to allow distractors of the past or distractors of the now to prevent you from enjoying the now. And recognize that what was in the past is not controlling the now, but it is a time that was learned to improve the now. And so focus on your thoughts and your feelings of now with yourself, not the titles. So I would just like to, in closing, just read the Mindfulness Action Plan sentence. I am here now, accepting the way I feel and noticing my thoughts while doing what I care about. End of practice. Thank you for joining me in this mindfulness gift, in this practice. I look forward to bringing more of the elements of the Mindfulness Action Plan next time we get together. And I encourage you to maybe write some of those feelings, some of those thoughts that you experienced, write them down on a journal. Please visit the resource I have listed in the description. And I wish you a great week. Thank you so much.
Be sure and pick up a copy of Eartha's new book, Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's not just an ordinary coloring book. It features 23 illustrations to stimulate thought, relaxation, and creativity for anyone between the ages of 4 and 94. Increase your positive self-talk energy. Unlock new creative paths. Transform your time once or twice a week to create beautiful art while strengthening confidence, building positive self-talk, and sensitize self-awareness. Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's available now at Amazon.com.